I remember the first time my plane fell from the sky. It was dawn when I crashed, somewhere in the endless sands of the Sahara Desert. The horizon was flat and cruel, and the silence was so deep it pressed against my chest. My engine had failed, my water was running low, and I was alone. Or so I thought. But that night I slept on the sand, beneath a sky scattered with stars. The kind of sky that reminds you how small you are. And when the sun rose, I was awakened by a soft, steady voice, one that didn't belong to any dream. "Please," it said, "draw me a sheep." I opened my eyes. There he was. A small boy stood before me, golden-haired, barefoot, wearing a long scarf that danced in the desert wind. His eyes were wide and calm, like he had seen galaxies and forgotten to be afraid. He repeated, "Draw me a sheep." I was too stunned to argue. I had never seen anyone appear so quietly, as if the world had simply allowed him to exist. So I took my pen and paper and tried. My first drawing looked wrong, too much like an elephant in a boa constrictor from an old sketch I made as a child. He frowned. No. I don't want an elephant inside a boa. I want a sheep." I tried again, too old, too sick, too strange. He shook his head every time, politely, as if he understood that grown-ups never quite get it right. Finally, out of frustration, I drew a small box. "This," I said, "is a box. The sheep you want is inside." He looked at it carefully, and then he smiled. "That's perfect," he said softly. And that was the moment I realized I was no longer alone in the desert. He never asked me where I came from, nor why my plane had crashed. Instead, he asked questions about the sheep, what it would eat, if it needed a rope, and whether it might nibble on small flowers. His curiosity was endless, but his questions felt like poetry disguised as conversation. Later, I learned he came from a very small planet, so small that if he walked far enough in one day, he could watch the sunset 44 times. He called it Asteroid B612. He spoke of it the way a man speaks of a home he misses with both love and loneliness. There was a single rose there, he told me, a rose unlike any other. She had bloomed suddenly one morning, delicate and proud, with soft petals and a voice that was both vain and fragile. "I loved her," he said, his eyes lost somewhere beyond the horizon. "But she was so complicated. She wanted to be admired, to be protected, and I was too young to understand what love was." He looked down, his voice trembling just slightly. "So I left. That night, as the desert wind whispered over the dunes, I looked at this strange little prince, this child from another world, and wondered how many adults would ever understand him. Most would have laughed, called him a dreamer, but in his silence, I saw something truer than logic, something that made me remember who I used to be before the world taught me to be practical. He watched the stars and said, 'When you look at the sky, you'll see my planet. It's small, but it's mine.' And for the first time in years, I found myself watching the stars as if they meant something again. He told me he had not always lived alone on his little planet. When the rose came, everything changed. At first, she bloomed silently, a mysterious bud growing from the soil one morning, covered in a delicate green dress. And when her petals opened, she revealed herself like a queen waking from a dream. She was so beautiful, he whispered, looking at the desert floor. I loved her the moment I saw her. But she was proud, and I was foolish. He told me how she demanded things. A glass globe at night, a screen to shield her from the wind, attention for every sigh. She coughed softly, just to make him worry. He obeyed her, loved her, and yet one day he left her not because he stopped loving her, but because he couldn't bear her contradictions. I didn't understand then, he said, his eyes glistening. I should have looked at her actions, not her words. She gave me light, even when she tried to hide it. So he left his small planet and began traveling across the stars, visiting other worlds in search of wisdom. Each planet, he said, held a single grown-up, and each grown-up was stranger than the last. The first planet was home to a king. Piv wore a robe of purple and gold, and though his planet was empty, he acted as if he ruled the universe. "Ah, a subject," the king exclaimed when he saw the little prince. "Come closer, so I may see you better." The little prince bowed politely. "But, sir," he said, "over what do you rule?" "Over everything," the king replied proudly. "The stars, the planets, even you." The boy smiled softly. "But the stars don't obey you." "They do," said the king quickly. "I command only what they are already doing. My authority must be reasonable." The little prince thought for a moment and said, "Then you might order the sun to set, if it pleases you." "Indeed, I shall," said the king, checking his enormous calendar. "But first, I must wait for the proper condition." The boy realized that this king, like so many adults, loved the illusion of control. So he left, whispering, "Grown-ups are very strange." The next planet belonged to a vain man, who wore a feathered hat and demanded admiration. "Ah, a visitor," he cried. "Clap your hands, I need applause." The little prince obeyed, clapping softly. "Wonderful," the man said, bowing deeply. "Do you truly admire me?" "What does that mean?" asked the boy. "It means you think I am the most handsome, the richest, the most intelligent man on my planet. But you're the only man on your planet," said the prince. "Nevertheless," the man replied, smiling proudly, "admire me." The little prince sighed. "Grown-ups are so odd," he whispered, and moved on. On the third planet lived a drunkard. He sat before a table filled with bottles, his face red and his eyes heavy. "What are you doing?" the prince asked. "Drinking," said the man, without looking up. "Why are you drinking?" "To forget." "To forget what?" "To forget that I am ashamed." "Of what?" "Of drinking," the man said, taking another sip. The little prince stared at him, heart heavy. "That's terrible," he murmured, and quietly left. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman. He was a large man, counting stars with endless precision. "Good morning," said the prince. "What are you doing?" "I'm counting," said the man. "Millions of stars. I own them. You own the stars." "Yes. When I find a new star, I record it. Then it's mine." "But what do you do with them?" "Nothing. I own them." "That is enough." The little prince shook his head. "I own a flower," he said softly, "and I water her every day. I own 3 volcanoes, and I clean them out. It's useful to my flower and my volcanoes that I own them. But you're not useful to the stars." The businessman didn't answer. He was too busy counting. The 5th planet was very small. On it stood a lamplighter, holding a tiny lamp that he lit and extinguished every minute. "Good morning," said the little prince. Orders are orders, said the man, lighting the lamp. 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Why? Asked the prince. It used to be once every day, the lamplighter explained, but my planet spins faster now. I have no rest. The little prince watched him for a while. I like this man, he said. He keeps his promise. He's the only one I could be friends with, but his planet was too small to live on. So the boy went on again, carrying the lamplighter's quiet devotion in his heart. The 6th planet was vast and filled with books. Here lived a geographer who recorded everything but never left his desk. Where do you come from, he asked. From a small planet, said the prince. I have volcanoes and a rose. Ah, said the geographer. We don't note flowers. Why not? They are ephemeral, said the man. They disappear. The boy's face darkened. My rose is not ephemeral, he said. She's unique. But the geographer didn't hear him. He was already writing. The boy thanked him and rose to leave. Where should I go next? He asked. Try the planet Earth, said the geographer. It has a good reputation. And so the little prince turned his gaze toward the blue-green star in the distance, our planet. He smiled faintly and said, It's so beautiful. When the little prince arrived on Earth, he was astonished. It was not at all like the tiny planets he had known. It was vast, full of deserts, oceans, mountains, and people. So many people. Yet, in all that immensity, he felt very small. At first, he landed in the desert, much like the one where I met him. There was no one there, just the golden sand stretching endlessly. He looked around and whispered, This planet seems empty. Then a snake appeared. Its skin was golden, blending perfectly with the sand, and its eyes glowed like 2 tiny lanterns. Good evening, said the little prince. Good evening, hissed the snake. Where are the men? Asked the boy. Men, the snake said softly. There are few of them here. The wind carries them away. They have no roots. The little prince looked down. You speak like a riddle. All riddles are truths, the snake replied, but I can help you. If you ever grow to homesick, I can send you back to where you came from. The boy didn't understand, not yet, but he thanked the snake and walked on. He climbed mountains, crossed fields, and finally came to a blooming garden filled with 5,000 roses, all looking exactly like his own. He stood there silently. His heart sank. My rose told me she was unique, he whispered, but she's just one of 1,000. He lay down in the grass and cried. The stars above him blurred through his tears. For the first time, he felt utterly alone. Then a quiet voice called out, Good morning. He looked up. There, between the golden stalks of wheat, sat a small fox with eyes like amber. Who are you? Asked the boy. I am a fox, said the creature. Come play with me, said the little prince. I'm so sad. I can't, said the fox. I'm not tamed. What does that mean, tamed? It means to create ties, the fox explained. Right now, you are just another little boy to me, and I am nothing but a fox to you. But if you tame me, we will need each other. You will be unique to me, and I will be unique to you. The little prince thought about his rose and nodded. I think I understand. And so he began to tame the fox. Each day he sat a little closer. He said nothing at first, and neither did the fox. But slowly their silence became comfortable, filled with trust. When the day of parting came, the fox's eyes glistened. Ah, said the fox, I will cry. It's your own fault, said the little prince gently. I never wished to hurt you. "Yes," the fox said, "but now I know the color of wheat." The boy looked confused. "The wheat fields used to mean nothing to me," said the fox. "But now, when I see them, they'll remind me of your golden hair. That is the price of being tamed, the risk of tears." Then the fox whispered something that would stay with the boy forever. "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." The little prince repeated it softly. "What is essential is invisible to the eye. The time you spent on your rose," continued the fox, "makes your rose so important." The boy realized then that though there were thousands of roses, his was the only one he had watered, sheltered, and loved. His rose was truly unique. When the fox said goodbye, he gave one last secret. "Greater than you become responsible forever for what you have tamed." The boy nodded, his heart full and aching all at once. He continued to wander, meeting people who seemed busy but lost: a merchant selling pills that saved time, a railway switchman guiding trains filled with restless passengers who didn't know where they were going. He understood then what the fox had meant, that adults often forgot what mattered. They chased speed, wealth, and purpose, but rarely love. And though the earth was immense and alive, the little prince realized that true meaning came not from size or power, but from the quiet things. The sound of laughter, the loyalty of friendship, the warmth of love. When he told me this story, we were sitting together in the sand, and I could see how deeply he missed his rose. He looked up at the stars and said softly, "The people on your planet raise 5,000 roses in one garden, and yet they do not find what they're looking for. And yet what they seek could be found in a single rose, or in a drop of water." I said nothing because he was right. His words carried the weight of truth that only a child's heart can hold. He turned to me and smiled faintly. "My rose. I think she needs me." And at that moment, I realized he was preparing to leave. But that night, the desert was silent. The kind of silence that feels alive. The stars shimmered above us, scattered across the black sky like diamonds scattered by an unseen hand. The air was cool, dry, and endless. We had spent several days together talking about life, the stars, his rose, and my broken aeroplane. I had almost forgotten I was stranded. The company of that golden-haired boy made the emptiness of the desert feel like a cathedral. But that night, something was different. He seemed quiet, resolved. He looked at me with his deep, thoughtful eyes and said, "I have found what I was looking for." I smiled weakly. "And what was that?" "My way home," he whispered. I didn't understand at first. His words hung in the air like a riddle. He reached out and held my hand. "You fixed your airplane," he said softly. "Tomorrow you can return to your world, and I must return to mine." My heart sank. "You can't mean," he shook his head gently. "It will look as if I am dying, but it will not be true." Then, as if he were speaking to the stars, he said, "My body is too heavy to carry home. I must let it go." The desert wind sighed between us. That evening, we walked together. The sand glowed pale under the moonlight, and each step left a soft mark that the wind quickly erased. When we reached a spot near an old stone wall, I saw something moving, a faint shimmer in the sand. And then, from the shadows, the snake appeared. Its golden skin rippled under the starlight. I understood, suddenly and terribly, what was about to happen. "No," I shouted. "You mustn't." But the little prince only smiled. "It's the only way home. It will be as if I am going to sleep." He stepped closer to the snake. It lifted its head slightly, its eyes glowing with something ancient, not malice, not kindness, just inevitability. The little prince turned to me one last time. "I must go to my Rose. She is waiting for me. I am responsible for her." My throat tightened. "If you're leaving, at least say goodbye." He nodded. "Goodbye, my friend. Don't be sad. When you look at the stars, you'll remember me. For you, the stars will always laugh. And when you hear them laugh, you'll know that somewhere I'm laughing too." Then, in a flash of gold, the snake struck, swift and silent. The boy fell gently, as if asleep. I ran to him and caught him in my arms. His body was light, like a child's. I called his name, but he didn't answer. The moon shone softly on his face, peaceful and serene. It was as if he had simply laid down to dream. I waited the whole night beside him, and when the dawn came, his body was gone. There was no trace of him, no footsteps, no sound, only the soft wind over the sand. I stared at the horizon, where the sun was rising, and for a long time, I didn't move. Something inside me had changed forever. When I finally repaired my plane and flew away, I couldn't help but look down at the desert below. From above, it was infinite, an ocean of gold. Somewhere down there, I had met a boy who had taught me what no adult ever could. That love makes things invisible to the eye, but unforgettable to the heart. And sometimes, the most precious things in the world are fragile, like a flower, like a laugh, like a child. Even now, years later, when I gaze at the night sky, I can hear him. His laughter is like the sound of wind chimes carried on the night air. It dances between the stars, light and pure. When I see the stars, they are not silent anymore. Each one seems to laugh 1,000 small bells echoing across the sky, and I smile, knowing that somewhere far beyond the desert, far beyond the stars, the little prince is tending to his rose. You alone will have stars that can laugh, he had told me. And when you look at the sky at night, you'll love the stars, all of them. They'll remind you of me, and so they do. Every night, every time the stars twinkle, I hear the soft laughter of the little prince, a reminder that love, once given, never truly disappears. It only becomes part of the light that shines above us all.